Some fast and freaky urban legends for you guys tonight. One is of an exhausted traveler. It's very late at night and he's desperate to find a place to sleep. He comes across a dodgy old motel, and that's good enough for him. He's so exhausted he doesn't bother turning on the lights. Gets in, falls down on the bed. Just before he falls asleep, he does notice something strange about the room. Squinting his eyes a little in the dark, he notes that there's a painting, one on each wall, and each one is a portrait of a person. The next morning he awakens, daylight is filling the room, and he notices that those weren't paintings at all. Those were windows, in window frames. From Hong Kong's Kowloon walled city. It was said to be over a month later when someone finally noticed they hadn't seen the mother in one of the apartments in quite a while. Police arrived and knocked at the door, to be surprised when it was opened by a very young girl, perhaps just 3 or 4 years old. When they asked the little girl where her mother was, she would say Mummy is sleeping. Sadly, police did find the mother in the apartment, and it was very clear she had been dead for quite some time. Later, a coroner would determine she had died about a month before she was discovered. Well, the girl was rescued and taken into protective services, and when the story aired on the news that night, quite a few viewers became somewhat outraged that such a thing could happen. How could neighbors go 1 month, add to that the smell of a decomposing body, and not even hear the cries of the girl locked inside the apartment for over a month with her mother's dead body in the next room? The local news decided to follow up and went back to the Kowloon walled city. They found the occupants of all of the apartments beside, above, and even below that of the deceased parent, and all of them agreed that they had thought nothing unusual. They could smell the delicious food that she was cooking, morning, lunch, and evening times too. Despite airing their testimonies, viewers throughout Hong Kong could not accept this and demanded to see police reports. The local news did indeed follow up and found the original police reports of the day they made the discovery. The girl was in perfect health, and when asked what she was eating all day to stay alive, the little girl said, "Many things. Mummy always cooks for me." From Beijing, China, a story about the last bus of the night. Now on this bus there is a young man as well as one very old lady. The bus stops at a stop near the theater district. 2 men get on the bus. They are dressed in Qing Dynasty clothes. Now the young man doesn't think much of it. He assumes they are 2 actors from the Beijing Opera who surely have just finished their shift and are on their way home this late at night. But the old lady is very upset, very nervous at the 2 men in their long robes and white faces. She turns to the young man and tries to tell him he needs to get off at the next stop with her. Well, the young man protests and says that he has much further to go. The old lady still tries to convince him. She says, "You really need to get off with me. Just trust me. Just trust me. You need to get off with me at the very next stop." The young man is a little belligerent with her and tells her to knock it off because he doesn't know what she's up to, but he needs to go home and he has many more stops to go. The old lady is upset and seems very bothered by the 2 men in their long robes and Qing Dynasty hats who have gone and sat right at the very back of the bus. The old lady begins yelling and complaining that the young man has picked her pocket. The young man is very surprised she would dare to say such a thing, and an argument breaks out between the 2 of them. Well, all along, the 2 actors in the zombie-like costumes are watching the 2 of them. The old lady takes it to the bus driver, and the young man follows her to deny such things. The bus driver insists that they're going to have to take this up with the police. It just so happens there's a local police station coming up at the next stop. And indeed, the bus driver does pull over and order both of them to get off. As the bus pulls away, they see the two Qing Dynasty zombies looking out the window and then looking forward. The old lady tells the young man that she's very sorry she had to do that. She knew he was not a pickpocket, but she had to think of some way to get him off of that bus because those two men were not actors, she insisted. They were, in fact, ghosts. And she told the young man that every night they must take at least one person. If it wasn't her, it would have been him. The young man does not accept this story and chalks it up to her being a superstitious old lady. She goes her way and he goes his on a long walk home. But it would be the next day he would learn from the news the driver had died at the wheel, died of a heart attack, and had crashed his bus into a retaining wall on the side of the road. Noted in the report was that police said they had no witnesses to the accident, as there was nobody on the bus at the time. From there, the young man was convinced that the old lady had saved his life.